Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Chris Beers. Jurors in Trump's New York trial now hearing their 10th hour of deliberating. What longer deliberations could mean for the direction of the case, and how Biden and Trump's campaigns are bracing for potential verdicts. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have weighed in on the historic trial of former President Donald Trump. The U.S. Supreme Court unanimous in a First Amendment ruling. They favor the National Rifle Association in its case against the state of New York. The Federal Aviation Administration says it will not remove the cap on Boeing's 737 MAX production. We'll tell you what else the FAA revealed about the aircraft manufacturer's new safety plans. People replacing human relationships with machines, the potential for mass layoffs. NTD speaks with attorney and coffee and COVID blogger Jeff Childers about the dangers of the latest tech update from OpenAI. And Eiffel Tower ticket prices are about to rise. We'll tell you how much more it's going to cost you to visit the iconic structure. With a verdict pending, jurors in Trump's New York trial are continuing to review facts and testimonies, now nearing their 10th hour of deliberations. Joining us live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao, who's outside the New York courthouse. Good afternoon, Iris. What's the latest on day 2 of jury deliberations?
Good afternoon to you, Chris. So right now it's been almost 10 hours after the jurors first began deliberating since yesterday. They took a break, of course, last night, but now today it's been a long day already with no end in sight. And it's a sign that they are really scrutinizing both the evidence, the testimonies, and the documents that they're given to really review this case. And that is also showing that some of the things we know so far is that they're looking at some of the parts of the testimonies related to an alleged conspiracy to influence the 2016 elections. For example, yesterday they requested to hear back some of the testimonies from both David Pecker, the former tabloid publisher, and also Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney and fixture, specifically about the scheme to buy and bury a story about Karen McDougal. And earlier today, the court also finished fulfilling its another request to the jury, which is to read back some of the jury instructions given to them yesterday, which involved a 55-page document. Today, almost half of that was heard back by the jury, and that involved sections, for example, including about the burden of proof and also the presumption of innocence. And so that actually took up most of the morning, the early afternoon, and today's proceeding basically just reading back to the jury what they wanted to hear more and really zoom in on. Meanwhile, the jurors today have not made any new requests when it comes to requesting evidence or documents or testimonies to hear or watch again. But right now we're looking at this proceeding going longer. The judge gave them the option that they could keep deliberating until 6 p.m. today if they want to, so a lot to watch for in the coming hours. Meanwhile, the former president this morning again called this case a rigged trial. Watch.
This is a very sad day for America. The whole world is watching, and it's a very sad day for New York. I've gone through 2 of these trials already. It's with the same kind of a judge. It's all worked. It's all rigged. The whole thing, the whole system is rigged. Judge Engoron was overturned 5 times.
And also, Trump was touting about a new NPR poll. Trump was also touting about this new NPR poll showing him that he's leading President Biden by 12 points among independent voters. Trump says that's the best that his team has done so far. And that's also despite Trump not being able to hold as many campaign events as he wanted, apparently, for the past few weeks because he's been stuck here at this courthouse during this ongoing trial. Back to you, Chris.
Definitely a lot to watch out for in the coming hours and days, Iris. How could the pending verdict influence the 2024 elections here?
So we are seeing actually both campaigns both by Trump and Biden are bracing for this upcoming verdict. For example, if Trump is convicted, and Trump's team has vowed to immediately appeal that decision, literally with all the haste that they could use. And we're also going to see Trump talking more about how this entire case, this trial, this potentially guilty verdict will be all set up to target him in this 2024 presidential election. And while a guilty verdict could give the Biden campaign more opportunities to go after Trump's legal woes, not sure if that's a wise move given what's happening so far. But in the meantime, a new NPR poll touted by Trump today actually also shows that about 2/3 of registered voters say that the actual verdict, a guilty verdict, will not change how they would be voting. So and by this point, it could be seen that actually most voters have made up their minds, given whatever this guilty or not guilty verdict will be. And meanwhile, if Trump's acquitted, or if this case actually ends in a hung trial or a mistrial, a hung jury with a mistrial, that could give the Trump campaign a lot more a boost in morale, given that's the result they really are looking for. And meanwhile, in either case, Trump's campaign will be able to arrange more campaign events going forward, given that he's not going to be stuck at this courthouse anymore. And President Biden reportedly could also address an upcoming verdict from the White House as part of his agenda. Back to you, Chris.
Iris Tal, thank you. Former President Donald Trump's trial in New York is setting a historic precedent. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have taken a position on the proceedings in the New York courthouse. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more.
The leadership of both parties in the House of Representatives have voiced different perspectives on former President Donald Trump's trial in New York. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson called the trial a disgrace, a clear example of lawfare and of the weaponization of the justice system.
The case is patently absurd. You've had every legal analyst across the board acknowledge as much. It needs to be handled quickly, and I hope that he will be fully acquitted there and we can move forward. But the damage has been done. They're doing real damage to our system of justice.
More than a dozen House Republicans, including the Speaker of the House, traveled to New York in support of the former president. And the House Judiciary Committee even released a report accusing the New York District Attorney of seeking political vendetta against Trump. On the other hand, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called those lawmakers who traveled to New York extremists and called President Trump insurrectionist in chief.
It is extraordinary that so many extreme MAGA Republicans who are apparently part of the Red Tie Brigade felt the need to bend the knee to the insurrectionists in chief, as opposed to staying in Washington and doing the business of the American people.
Last week, Democratic Congressman James McGovern took to the House floor and alleged that former President Donald Trump was guilty of the charges he's facing.
No time to work with Democrats, but plenty of time to put on weird matching. I want to talk about the fact that the leader of their party is on trial for covering up hush money payments to a porn star for political gain.
Republican Congresswoman Erin Hutchin from Indiana requested those words be stricken down from the record as they violated the decorum of debate rules. That ignited a 1-hour-long debate on what language is acceptable when referring and discussing former President Donald Trump's trials. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Another Hollywood actor is stumping for a presidential candidate. Actor Dennis Quaid, who stars in the upcoming biopic Reagan, says he would vote for Donald Trump. The actor cites how the U.S. justice system is being weaponized as one of the reasons he's voting for the former president.
I think I'm going to vote for him. I was ready not to vote for Trump until what I saw is more than politics. I see a weaponization of our justice system.
Yeah.
And a challenge to our Constitution.
The 70-year-old actor made those comments during a recent appearance on Piers Morgan's show on Tuesday. Quaid says that he wasn't initially planning on voting for Trump, but Trump's criminal trial in New York ultimately swayed his decision. His new movie, Reagan, is scheduled for release August 30th. The Federal Aviation Administration will not remove the production cap on Boeing's 737 MAX yet. It met with Boeing for 3 hours today. Boeing presented a plan to fix safety and quality problems that have plagued the company in recent years.
The FAA will provide oversight at every step of the way in this process. We certify every 737 MAX before it can be put into service, and we will continue to do so. We will also provide enhanced oversight of Boeing and its suppliers. Safety is a team sport. Everyone has a role to play. Boeing must do their part, and we will be there to make sure they do that.
The FAA said that Boeing's plan includes increasing employee training, strengthening an anonymous reporting system, and boosting supplier oversight, among other changes, but said Boeing itself will release the specifics of the plan. This comes after one of Boeing's planes suffered a fuselage panel blowout during an Alaska Airlines flight back in January, followed by various other safety issues that put the company's production practices under scrutiny. Whistleblowers have accused the company of taking shortcuts that endanger passengers, a claim that Boeing disputes. And the Supreme Court rules unanimously in favor of the National Rifle Association today. The justices claim the NRA was right to say that the state of New York violated its First Amendment rights. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us now. Jack, what does this ruling mean for the NRA?
Good afternoon, Chris. Well, this ruling means that the NRA can now go forward with its case in a lower court, claiming that they were punished based upon their viewpoints for gun rights support and advocacy. The NRA claims that a former superintendent for the state of New York's Financial Services Department pressured banks and insurance companies from doing business with the NRA. Now, these companies then stopped doing business with the NRA. The NRA came out and said, hang on, this is a violation of our First Amendment rights. But a appellate court in the New York, and a New York appeals court, disagreed with the NRA. Today's Supreme Court decision overturns that ruling, and now this court case can go forward. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in a majority opinion today that the any government official cannot wield their power selectively to punish or suppress speech. And the NRA President Bob Barr came out calling the ruling a victory, saying that this is a win for, quote, every organization that may suffer from an abuse of government power. Chris?
Jack, is it uncommon for the Supreme Court to issue unanimous rulings, especially considering the politicized nature of this topic?
Well, it definitely might seem that way, but these Supreme Court cases that are unanimous are actually more common than the split votes, it seems, because the split votes are actually the ones that get most of the attention. At this 6-3 ruling, based upon liberal and conservative justices, seem to get the attention on those. But this case shows that the Supreme Court can come together on these fundamental constitutional questions, like the First Amendment. The ruling was written by the court's most senior liberal justice, getting all of the other justices on board as well. But what's most surprising here is who came out to support the NRA. The ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, is representing the NRA in this case, and the Biden administration has come out and given it support for arguments that the NRA has made, saying that the First Amendment prohibits the government from discriminating based upon viewpoints. Chris?
All right, well, we'll see if this case impacts the ability of state regulators to pressure advocacy groups. Jack, thank you. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Normandy and Paris next week to mark the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion during World War II. The Allied landings in Normandy paved the way for the liberation of France and Europe. On their visit, President Biden will give a speech next Friday on the importance of defending freedom and democracy. The next day, French President Emmanuel Macron will host the Bidens for a state visit. And OpenAI recently released an update to its artificial intelligence mode. The promotional videos caused waves due to the new abilities and fears about massive job losses. NTD's Daniel Monahan speaks with attorney and coffee and COVID blogger Jeff Childers for analysis.
I want to introduce you to somebody.
Well, hello there, cutie.
ChatGPT 4.0 can mimic human speaking style, detect people's moods, and process what it's seeing and describe it to you in real time.
So I'm pretty sure this is the angle alpha right here, right?
Perfect. That's correct.
One demonstration showed it acting as a teacher, another as an interpreter translating English and Italian, and yet another showed it confidently handling a customer service call with another AI, as well as assisting with a complex software coding problem on a computer screen. Some AI developers described the new technology as terrifying. Attorney Jeff Childer says it's going to change the landscape of countless numbers of professions.
The frantic speed with which this AI train is trundling down the tracks is remarkable. I can't remember in my lifetime any new, disruptive technology like this rolling out this quickly, leaving people completely unprepared, mentally, socially, economically. There's just no time to get ready.
Childers discussed one profession that could be affected.
Teachers, great example. I mean, if an AI can do a better job than 80 or 90% of teachers out there, why wouldn't people use the AI? And you get one-on-one teacher-student interactions. That's a hard sell.
One of Childer's biggest concerns is people starting to have relationships with machines instead of humans.
The machine doesn't care, but people will be persuaded that the machine cares, and maybe it's easier for me to spend time with the machine than a human being. Human beings argue with you, and they're self-interested, and they get their feelings hurt, and they're demanding for time. And
Childers also worries about the dependency people could develop on AI as they begin to trust it more and more and look to it to solve their problems. Could they choose Jesus or Buddha as their AI avatar, replace their higher power with a man-made creation?
And then you begin to perceive the AI as being something greater than human. It's smarter, faster, it knows more, it knows everything. Then you develop, wouldn't you, an almost religious relationship with the machine. It's not just another human. It's something more than human. And when that happens, what influence will the AI wield on us, and then who will be programming the AI?
Another concern for the coffee and COVID blogger is that the AI developers admit that they don't fully understand how the technology works. It reminds him of a classic science fiction trope.
The scientists are looking at the alien cell and like, doctor, what is the cell doing now? And the other scientist says, well, we're not sure, but this is too important of a discovery to keep in the lab.
GPT-4o, short for Omni, will power OpenAI's popular ChatGPT chatbot and will be available to users in the coming weeks.
This is Bowser.
Well, hello, Bowser. Aren't you just the most adorable little thing?
Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
One of his favorite things.
When we come back, visiting the Eiffel Tower will cost 20% more in June. NTD's France correspondent tells us why the French monument needs the price hike. And a Chinese national accused of major cyber crimes is in police custody. That story and more after the break.
The biggest investigation in FBI history.
There are more than 1,100 arrests.
I sacrificed my dream job to share this information with the American people.
Those involved must be held accountable.
He's an innocent man.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I had heard many times that heart disease is the #1 killer. It went in one ear and out the other, frankly. I never had a health issue. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. By the time I got to the ER, the doctor decided to give me a CAT scan. He said, I don't think you understand. You are on the verge of a heart attack. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today. asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. With you by our side, together we'll keep fighting this battle. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. Put yourself on your to-do list. It could be the most important thing you ever do. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Welcome back. Visitors to France's Eiffel Tower will be paying more. The ticket price is expected to increase by 20% in June. The increase aims to address financial struggles exacerbated by the pandemic and increased city hall taxes. NTD's France correspondent David Vivez has the story.
Visitors to the Eiffel Tower will face a 20% increase in ticket prices, aimed at funding essential renovation work and addressing financial losses from the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic saw visitor numbers to the monument plummet from 6.2 million in 2019 to just 1.6 million in 2020, resulting in a revenue shortfall of around $130 million over 2020 and 2021. Moreover, there is another cause for the tower's financial woes: city hall taxes. During a city council meeting, Minister of Culture Rachida Dati attributed the dire financial and material condition of the Eiffel Tower to mismanagement by the City Hall administration.
By attacking the Eiffel Tower with new taxes, you're also going to ruin it, since you're going to take almost 50 million euros a year from it. Whereas, in 2018, this number was 8 million euros a year.
The 300-meter iron structure requires regular maintenance to prevent rust. For Paris Region Councillor Pierre Licia, the rise in taxes has consequences for the tower's administration.
The exclusion of the tax imposed on the Eiffel Tower will jeopardize the tower's ability to maintain itself. Quite simply, it will have no room to maneuver.
The Eiffel Tower is not an isolated case regarding the tax hike. Real estate taxes have risen by up to 52% last year.
We don't have better housing, education, or traffic conditions, and yet the debt is increasing. City spending continues to rise, and above all, Parisians' local taxes are skyrocketing.
The raise in ticket prices will cost $38 for a lift to the top and $15 for a stair climb. The new price will be effective on June 17. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Federal regulators will allow Amazon to expand its drone delivery program. The e-commerce giant says that the Federal Aviation Administration has given its Prime Air delivery service permission to operate drones beyond visual line of sight. The decision allows Amazon pilots to operate drones remotely without seeing the aircraft. An FAA spokesperson said the approval applies to College Station, Texas. Amazon says the decision from regulators also lays the foundation to scale its operation to more locations across the country. The company hopes to deliver 500 million packages by drone annually by 2030. Businesses have advocated for simpler rules that could open neighborhood skies to commercial drones. However, privacy advocates and some airline and balloon pilots remain skeptical. And a new report shows the U.S. economy growing at a slower pace, and a Chinese national is arrested for spreading malware. NTD's Don Ma has those stories in today's Business Matters.
Okay, thank you, Chris. The U.S. economy grew more slowly in the first quarter than previously estimated. And this is after downward revisions to consumer spending, according to the Commerce Department earlier today. So gross domestic product, the broadest measure of economic activity, it grew at a 1.3% annualized rate from January through March. That's the first quarter. And it's down from the advanced estimate of 1.6%. And of course, notably slower than the 3.4% pace in the final 3 months of 2023. So the downgrade of the first quarter growth followed recent softness in readings of retail sales and equipment spending, and the downward revision to GDP brings the first quarter's growth rate to the lowest since the second quarter of 2022. Likely the world's largest cybercrime network of its kind has been taken down, according to U.S. officials. Law enforcement taking it down and arrested its creator in Singapore, who is a Chinese national. So this network is a botnet spanning more than 19 million unique IP addresses in almost 200 countries, and that includes more than 600,000 in the U.S. A botnet is a network of malware-infected computers secretly controlled by someone who doesn't own them, and that control allows a third party to commit widespread crimes with private devices. The DOJ says the Chinese national named Yunhe Wang allegedly created the botnet and sold access to it to criminals. It alleges some of them defrauded the U.S. government of almost $6 billion in pandemic relief funds. That's all from me today, Chris. Back to you.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Chris Beers. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.